Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens. Today's episode, Ask Me Almost Anything. My name is Glenn Gers, and I am the chief operating everything of Writing for Screens, which is a channel devoted to screenwriting lessons, skills, tips, and insights that I developed during a 25-year career writing for TV and movies. On my way out of the business, I am trying to leave behind all this stuff that I had to figure out for myself, and trying to put it in forms that will be useful for you to try out for yourself. Because there is no system, there is no right way or wrong way. Every artist has to figure out their own goals, their own style, their own methods, their own path. And so therefore, all that anyone else can do for you is try to give you some tips, some insights, some skills that they may have learned, and you see if they work for you. If they work, take them. If they don't, get rid of them and figure out what does work for you. In order to teach this, I have gotten, here's a little screen grab of my channel page. If you will see, there's a bunch of playlists down at the bottom. Here's a close-up of those. The first three of them are Screenwriting Essentials, Screenwriting Tools, Skills and Craft, and The Process, Being a Writer. Those have about 50 short videos, about 10 minutes each usually. They're on a topic like character, dialogue, dramatic action, flashbacks, and what I've tried to do is simply give you some bits and pieces, skills, tools, ways to look at things so that you can try them out. Real short, they're available 24/7. The thumbnail is a great big word that tells you what it's about. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible to use this, kind of like a reference book. Like a cookbook. You look through and you see what topic you want to look at today. 10 minutes, there you go. Once you have looked at that stuff, if you care to, I am here live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, if I can make it. I'd have a different topic every week. This week, just gonna talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, because I've been bringing a lot of prepared topics to these live streams. So let me say a couple of quick hellos. Hello, Nathan. Hello, Blaine. And Sonia. Donna. Michael. Thumper. Covers by Gus. Hello. Happy Wednesday to all of you. Agent of Chaos. Hi. And then Viorella. I think I got that right. Let me know. Arfung, hello. Michael, hello. Brandon, hello. Okay, Just Paul says, hi. Wanted to say thank you. Advanced in the Script Lab screenwriting competition. Yes, absolutely. You are more than welcome. Competitions are a mystery to me as to how they're deciding and what it is that you get. But I am really happy because I know that every time somebody makes some progress in one of those contests, they can use that on their resume. That is a good thing. Congratulations. Hi, Nikki Enchilada. Welcome. I've never met you before, I believe. Hello, Ricky. Endings help me. I think I've finished my novel, but still tweaking. Is there a checklist or something to help me decide I'm done? Not really. Famously, I don't know if I still have that. Walter Mosley, a great novelist and screenwriter, said, I'm going to paraphrase here, it's done when everything you can think of fixing, you can't fix yet. In other words, sometimes you just get to the point of there may be stuff wrong, or I even may know what that is, but I don't know what to do about it now. Then it's done. If you can look at it and see something and say, that specific thing needs to be altered in this way, specifically, that is worth doing. At a certain point, you have to say, I'm not sure about this or that. Then you have to let it out into the world, get some responses, decide what to do then. There is no official knowing when you're done. There's also no real official done. I mean, honestly, until something is released to the audience, it's not done. You'll be amazed how many changes keep happening with a script, even in post-production, after it's been written, after it's been shot, after it's been edited, they're still tinkering with stuff. So therefore, my big answer would be, if you see things that you want to do in a positive, coherent sense, then do that. Then you're not done. You will get to a point where you'll be like, I don't know, that seems good to me, or good enough, or best I can do. Then you're done. If the best, if you've done the best you can do and it's terrible, it's still done. There's nothing you can do if you can't think of anything to do. If you can think of something to do it. It's much less complicated than you think. It's usually a good idea to proofread it, just once go through and really just look for typing and spelling and stuff like that. But no, there is no specific checklist. Everybody's checklist will be specific to them and specific to that project. Different projects, you'll have different ways of deciding. Hello, Lauren and Dogo. Hello from Sweden. Hey. John Jones, hello. Gosh, a lot of people on today. Hello, Darian. Nice. Okay, so Agent of Chaos. I've been struggling with the concept of primary and secondary narratives, like an A story affecting the C story, and how this feels overwhelming at times. How do I operate? I have a good answer for that. First thing is, remember, you don't have to have an A story, a B story, a C story. Some stories have them, some stories don't. It's not like that is required. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, I think the most important thing to remember is, what's your main story? Okay, make sure that is working. The B story or C story or whatever else. One of the things you can do to try and look at those and understand them is, I did a video called Building Character Arcs. I would suggest you take a look at that, because what I suggest in it is essentially, if you look at each character's experience through the script as their own little movie. Every single character is they're living their own life. They are running through events from their own perspective. So one thing you can do is, if you have an outline, make a copy of the outline, and then go through it and delete every scene that the character you're talking about is not in, the B story or C story. So that you're going to get rid of a bunch of scenes and just have left that person's life during the story, their experience of it. Then you can look at that and say, what is the story of this? Not what is the story with all these things taken into account, but just what is happening for that character. And you'll be able to see if there's gaps or if there's inconsistencies when you clear out the other things. And then you can go through, make a different copy of the outline, and look at just the A story. Get rid of the B story and C story. Then, ideally, for me, that helps me to understand them, and then you start to juggle them in terms of the experience of going through the story. You say, okay, we need to check in on the B story, or the B story is going to change the A story, or whatever it is. For me, the way that I understand that is to remember that each character is experiencing the story from their point of view. They don't know they're the B story. Okay, they think they're the A story. They think, I've got to get this thing done. So by focusing on each character's point of view all the way through the story, you can say, at this point, they want this. It may not be what the main story wants. It may be, in fact, trouble for the main story. But they're going to have something on their mind in each scene. That's my suggestion for juggling those things. Outlining. If you don't outline, it's harder to do. You have to make a copy of your own. The other thing about this is, only work in a copy of your document, because you're going to be deleting stuff. So don't delete stuff from your main document. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Glenn's Fan Club. Hey, I got banned by a contest. I wrote a screenplay about Hitler and Goebbels, and the banned me stating my entry is promoting. I'm sorry that happened. I don't know the specifics of your script. I don't know if it was saying bravo Nazis or something. Or it could be that people simply have a rule for their particular contest. They don't want anything politically sensitive. It's their contest. They make the rules. So all I would say is try a different contest, or ask yourself, is what I am writing in some way offensive to X, Y, or Z group? If so, are you comfortable with that? And if so, you may have to live with the consequences of that. Hi, Brandon. I got feedback on my feature screenplay from a few different trusted people, and the main note back is the dialogue is too on the nose. This is the main note. How do you approach the rewrites? Okay. Well, first of all, you should take a look at this dialogue video, because I talk about on the nose, which if you're getting the complaint a lot, the odds are that what you're doing is you're being too on the nose, in the sense that you are replacing dramatic tension with information. That's what makes people say on the nose. In other words, if people are speaking from their own need in the moment, it's not going to feel on the nose. What feels on the nose is if you are trying to convey information. So the question of how to approach the rewrites, I would go through it page by page and say, look at only the dialogue and say, in each line, are you expressing what the character wants in that moment from the other character, or are you expressing something that you are trying to convey to the audience? That's what makes things feel on the nose. It is a fine line between the things the character wants to say and the things you need them to say, but you need to try and find ways for them to need to say it in that moment. That's the key, is that each bit of dialogue is happening at a certain point in the character's life. They have something they are trying to do. They are facing someone who is either in their way or needs to be caught up, or for whatever the relationship is in that moment. You need to find out what it is that character needs to accomplish and make that the point of the dialogue. And then you can just try, literally just, how can I make this a little less obvious, a little more... people tend to talk in real life without explaining. They tend to, unless the action that they are taking in the moment is explaining, if the point of what they're doing is explaining. But most of the time they will say something because they know what they're talking about, and usually the person they're talking to knows. So the fact that the audience doesn't know all about it doesn't really matter, because the audience will catch up if the characters are, you can have characters talking jargon that no one understands, and you can still get a sense of the urgency and the main points sometimes, even when we don't know what they're saying. So that's what I would suggest, is try to think about what is the dramatic action of the scene. In case that is not a clear concept, check out this video. By the way, when I refer to a video after this session, I will go in and put them in the description underneath this video, like the little description box under this video. I will put links to those videos. Okay. Nikki, this is my first time being here. I thought so. I remember the name Nikki Enchilada. Cool. That's great. I've done criticism. Yes, criticism and creating are very difficult to switch between them, because you've got two different mindsets. The main thing I would say about creating versus critiquing is try to live in the moment of the characters. That's really going to be the answer to almost all writing problems. Try to live in the moment of the characters. That will usually happen. What is a beat? Is it an idea or intention? I actually did a whole AMA about this. I will put a link down. Basically, there's several kinds of beats. One of the big problems with screenwriting teaching is there are no actual definitions of any of these terms. Everybody has their own definition. There's no screenwriting academy that puts out an official dictionary. There's simply what people think they mean and what they learned about those terms. So the first thing I would say about beat is figure out what the person you are talking to or listening to means, because it will be different. For me, there's the beat in the scene as a sense of a little pause. A beat is sort of a lesser pause. A beat in terms of structure, I believe, is a step in the dramatic action. It's a smaller action. It's the moment to moment, beat to beat of a scene. The scene may have many, many things happening in it, steps where people are trying different things during the course of their scene. Each one of those little scenes, to me, is a beat. Other people use beat to mean scene. So there is no actual answer to that. But there is a video. Look, about 10 minutes after this is done, I will post links to that video with more details. Germany football rocks. Hello. I'm writing a movie about a widow, and his husband died in the Vietnam War and has been alone for the last half a decade. Do I need to research about the Vietnam War? Not necessarily. It depends. If the widow wasn't there, if the other characters weren't there, then the main things you would want to research would be specifically why they went, what their experience was, and why they, how or where or when they died. The things that relate to your current story. But you can sort of figure out what you want to do emotionally, and then research later to fill in if you need they died in this or that city, or this and that battle, but that depends. It will depend on what you want to do. But there's no reason for you to particularly research. I mean, if your story is set alone for half a decade after the Vietnam War, you're talking about the 1970s or early 80s at the latest. So you need to know about that period to that extent. John, by the way, I believe, let me see, I did a whole video on research. So you can take a look at that. That gives you my basic understanding of what you should and what you shouldn't and when you should research. Okay. John sees newspaper title or nameplate on a desk needs to be capitalized. You mean like all caps? Doesn't need to be. Can be. Could be bold. It could be centered. It could be italics. Whatever you want to do to set it to make clear that it is a thing that is being read, not in the text itself. But exactly how you do that is kind of up to you. You could put it in quotes. Caps is nice too. No rule on that. Hello, Doreen. Hi, Jean. Ashlyn. Hello. Was that really good advice? I like that strategy. Thank. That was really good advice. I thought you were saying, was that advice? I thought it was good advice. Thank you. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Yay. Good advice. I've been working as a producer recently. Congratulations, Blaine. Haven't seen you in a while. And I want to know what's the best way to communicate to writers that we need to cut back, e.g. merge characters. The best way is explain your basic principle for why you need to cut back. In other words, do you need to cut back because you personally think the script is too wordy or too long? Or do you need to cut back because it's finance? So tell them the reason. It always helps if you say, hey, we lost a quarter of our money. We need to have less scenes and less locations. Ideally, the writer will understand that. If not, you got a writer problem. But then the main thing is, if you have specific things that you need to cut back, be specific. Literally make a list. Say, we can't have the boat. We can't have the horseback riding. Or these 2 horseback riding scenes have to be made into one. Now, when you suggest those things, or even give that order, I mean, if you're the producer and you have to say, hey, we need half as many scenes, but then you need to listen to the writer say, if I take those 2 scenes and make them into one, they're going to go through too many changes in one scene, stuff like that. Be prepared to have to work through the specifics of the choices that you are asking them to make. And then, like I said, if you have specific things you want, tell them specifically in a nice, clean way. Ideally, a list. Lists are so useful. If you don't have a specific list, then just give them the big principle and say, take it away or talk to me about what you think can solve this problem. Excuse me. I just saw a video in Film Courage, one of the guests suggesting to force ourselves to write the scene without using dialogue first, then we would avoid too much dialogue. Do you think it would work? As with all suggestions from writing teachers or from anybody, maybe. I don't know. I don't personally see the value. I mean, if the point is avoiding too much dialogue, there's a lot of ways. Different people will do it so different ways. Some people need to write everything they can possibly think of, and then they go back and cut it back. This is saying no. I generally covers all bases suggestion is not going to work. It's all, you have to try it. If you are, in a certain sense, like, why even worry about it? I mean, unless you feel like your dialogue is too much dialogue, then don't even worry about the problem. You don't need to solve a problem that somebody else has. You need to think about, if your dialogue is too long, either your script is just too long, or you feel personally that they're talking too much, go back and see, do they need to have all these, are there introductory or statements? Are there things that you can cut out and make it move a little faster? Also, pay attention to where you see dialogue in other things that you think is working, and really study that. Type out. One of the best things you could do, if you hear a batch of good dialogue, stop, get a pause on that, and type it out. Make a copy of it. Look at it on the page. See how it works. I feel shame thinking to share my ideas. Well, here's the thing. Does that mean you don't want to write, or you don't want to share your ideas before you write? If you don't want to share your ideas before you write, don't do it. You don't have to. If you're saying you feel ashamed that you're, in some sense, that your work is going to be bad or judged or feared, honestly, there's nothing you can do about that except survive it. If the shame is a tricky word. Shame suggests that you think you've done something wrong. If you are feeling fear that you will be criticized or that it will be bad, the only way to find out is to do it and see if it is. And if it is, then you can try and fix those things. But there's no point, I mean, unless you just want to give up writing, but it doesn't seem like that's a good idea. My feeling is, write it. If you're really worried about other people seeing it, figure you're going to write it and not show it to anyone. Just write it to make yourself happy, and then down the line you could decide whether or not you want to show it to anyone. It's a script about Hitler's love life rather than his political career, both the story based on a book. Okay, yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. As far as topics, do recognize that for some people, a story about Hitler in any way that does not condemn him outright may be unacceptable. I think that's their, they have the right in their contest to reject it. You have to decide for yourself what the purpose of telling a story that humanizes Hitler, because that's what it sounds like it is. What's the purpose of doing that? If the purpose is that you're trying to say, hey, Nazis, okay, I'm not a fan of that. And I suspect that you will not get a lot of great feedback on that. If you insist that you need to write that, think about how you can do it in such a way that you can make clear to other people the legitimacy of your goal, the legitimacy of your vision. And then recognize that to a certain extent, some of your work is just not going to be popular. When writing a fun parody of a very serious franchise series, when I need to have rights to the IP, this is tricky. because and I just need to say right up front, this is not legal advice. I am not a lawyer. I do not know the legal ramifications of parody, because in theory, parody is protected. Also, I don't know if you're in America. Laws are different in different countries. In America, there is a protection under copyright law for parody, in the sense that you can, if you are clearly transforming and making fun of another piece, you can use pieces of that piece. It also depends on what need to have the rights for what? Need to have the rights to show it to a friend? No. Need to have the rights to submit it to a publisher? I'd probably. It would depend. I think that the important thing to decide is if you're writing a fun parody, what is the purpose of it? If you're going to just put it on the internet, you probably are okay. Anyway. That's a legal issue that you have to decide. Do some research on parody in your country's legal system. A year ago, I wrote a fictitious story about two countries at war. In fact, in real life, there's political tension. Will people say I'm instigating the problem? So you wrote a fictional story about two real countries. A lot of these questions are simply, there's no way to control that. Will people say it? They may say it. Well, how do you feel if they say it? Do you agree that you're instigating the problem, or do you feel that you're in some way solving or giving insight or making a suggestion or critiquing? All of those are legitimate reasons to take on a topic like that. But you do have to recognize with all of these questions about, if you're doing an objectionable topic or something that someone might be upset with, the best thing you can do is to think to yourself, what will I say to the person who feels I'm instigating? What will I say to the person who feels this is an inappropriate story or a dangerous story? If you can't make a good argument for yourself to that, then you maybe should think about why you're doing it. Hi, Nacho. But if you can think about, if you say like, I believe that it is important to voice this thought, even if some people feel I'm instigating the problem. The other thing is instigating a problem between two countries at war. The problem already exists. You're not instigating it. You didn't make it happen. You're not a president. How to write better descriptions in our scripts. Once again, I have done a whole AMA on descriptions. I will put a link in the description of this. That's such a big, complicated topic, but the basic answer would be try to make sure that the description in some way relates to the dramatic action. In other words, you can describe everything. That doesn't help us to focus in the story on what's happening. So, for instance, if you are describing a place or a thing that's happening and the main characters are not interacting with that, why are you taking time? There's so little time. The main thing you have to remember when you describe is try to focus on what is happening to the characters in that moment. If it is not there, if it is not involved in that, you probably don't want to spend a lot of words on it. The main thing to remember about script writing is you have very, very few words. You have very, very little space. So the thing you want to do is make sure that the words you are applying have to do with the characters taking the action in that scene. Excuse me. I would take a look at scripts and see the ones that you like to read and see how they do it. Usually, relatively short, simple sentences, mostly relatively clear. Screenwriting it can be very moody and atmospheric, but you don't usually want to have long, full paragraphs. That's very hard for people to read when they're reading a script. See if you can cut down that big paragraph of description or of detailing every step of an action into a couple of significant sentences. So that's a question. You are welcome, Robert. Very glad that you're here. Creadigol. Thank you, sir. You're very welcome. How do you handle wanting to write several different ideas and sticking to only one until it's finished? I tackle that a little bit in this brainstorming. Okay. In this video, I talk a bit about it. The way I do it is create some kind of document for every project that's in your mind. If you get an idea for something, even if it's just a sentence, make a file, make a document, write the sentence there. If you are going to spend time on it, if you have several different ideas and you can do a little bit, like, an hour here, an hour there on all of the ones that aren't the main one, choose one as your primary objective. This is the one that I'm putting above the others. That doesn't mean you don't use the others, you don't work on the others, you don't give a little time to them, but you have to first make sure that your main project is moving along. Try to work on it, if possible, every day, even if it's only a little bit. But ideally, you're spending the bulk of your time on one. Then the others, to the extent, if your brain can handle switching, mine actually likes switching, then do it. Take a half hour, take 45 minutes, take an hour, and work on one of those. That's my best suggestion. My best suggestion is make sure you are not sacrificing completing something, but then make sure that you are also not postponing the other things. Keep them alive. Keep them going. That would be my, not knowing you too well, that would be my suggestion for how to do it. Hello, Blue Evolution Studio. Yes, the chat is really hopping. Any series you are watching right now to recommend to us? I would recommend My Beautiful Friend. Although I'm waiting. Hopefully this summer the fourth and final season will come out. It is a series on HBO based on a quartet of novels by Elena Ferrante, the Italian novelist, about two women growing up and living their lives in Italy. And I think it's phenomenal. So that's what I would say. My Brilliant Friend, HBO. There's 4 seasons, of which 3 seasons are currently existing, one of which is supposed to come out this summer or fall. Hello, David Lagar. Always a pleasure to watch. Thank you. You're very welcome. Hi, Jean. Yeah, I know. What can you do? All right, you are all welcome. Do you have any suggestions for what to drink before writing? That will entirely depend upon your metabolism and situation, your finances, and your emotions. Test your own experience. I personally drink coffee in the early part of the day. I would advise not drinking alcohol. But what do I know? If you are functional and able to work while you're drinking alcohol, maybe that's good. Maybe it'll relax you. As to whether or not espresso or Red Bull or another speedy drink is a good idea, different for some people that will obliterate your brain. You will just be like, I can't think. I've got too much going on. For other people, it focuses you. You have to decide for yourself. This is the peak question of, I don't know, it's your body. I personally find that different forms of caffeine make me jittery, but coffee, perhaps because of familiarity, tends to make me focused. Don't know what to say about that. Okay. Hello, John Jones. What is dynamic character? I want to build one of my characters like that. What should I focus on? 2, I am from Ethiopia. Cool. I want to bring legends of history in my strip. How can I do it? Okay, so 2 questions. I don't know what a dynamic character is. I've never heard of that before. I will say that I did a video called Character, so I would suggest checking that. And also this one that I've mentioned before, Building Character Arcs. Those are where and honestly, this one too, this is very important. Dramatic action. The thing about all this is I urge you, I beg you all, try to look at these 3 playlists on my main channel page. The first 3, scrolling down, have 50 different 10-minute lessons. And almost everything I am saying now, I am saying less well than I say there. So the answer would be, please check out those videos. The whole reason I spent the past few years making them, it took me months to write those, is to try and get to a clear sense of the most practical things and just turn it over to you. Because there's no right answer. There is no, this is how you have to do it. A dynamic character sounds like just a good character, a dramatic character. And I want to bring the legends of history to my script. How can I do it? Tell a story about those things. It's a very broad question. So all I can say is, if you want to engage with Ethiopian history, either tell a story about it or tell a story about how people in the present are engaging or influenced or discovering that history. That would be my suggestion. Do you have any tips for absurd surrealism? That's a fascinating question. Okay, let's think about this. To a certain extent, absurdity is easy. Just do something unexpected and inappropriate. That's not the best absurdism, and certainly not the best surrealism. Absurdity and surrealism are both actual movements from the 20th century, literary movements, and you would do well to research those. Look up in a legit literature encyclopedia or something, or just look up absurdity in literature or surrealism in literature. You'll find that there's actual theories behind why. Surrealism tends to be dreamlike. In other words, surrealism is taking elements from regular life and surrealing them, making them more than real, above real. Meaning you're giving them an emotional or historical or political meaning that transcends their everydayness and is heightened. So surrealism is not realistic because it is taking something and making, like, if you feel like a character is taking your energy and you make them actually like a vampire, you're surrealizing them. Absurdity is questioning convention, is questioning the meaning of life. So my answer would be, first of all, always look for the unexpected, the inappropriate, the thing that you think would be. Generally, this stuff should be funny. It should make you laugh, even if it's horrifying. So what gets to you? But the other thing is, for tips for absurd surrealism would be prepared to brainstorm, to lighten up, to free associate and say, like, well, what would I do when that's in the cafe and I want to show X, Y, and Z? Maybe a goat comes in and orders a brandy. I don't know, but I know that you need to have something where whatever comes out of your particular head is going to be the particular brand of absurdity that you want to follow. There isn't a rule book for surrealism, and there actually was back in the 1920s, but you don't want to use that. So the answer, my tips for absurd surrealism are, give yourself, I've mentioned brainstorming. There was a video that I mentioned about brainstorming. I would suggest getting a little comfortable with brainstorming, with the idea of letting yourself free associate within a specific moment or topic. So that's one thing I would suggest. The other thing is you have to follow your instincts. You have to have some fun with it. You have to say, this seems funny to me. I mean, if you look at some of the greats, the contemporary greats of this, obviously the Coen brothers, The Big Lebowski is absurd surrealism. And truly, it seems like the way they operate is to say, what do we think is funny? When I think of what would be a funny thing to happen now, what comes to my mind? And then they simply have the guts to put it in, even though, everyone else would be like, well, why is that? It's because I thought it was funny and I thought of it. So that would be my answer. Hello, Pelicans. You are welcome, Sonia. Okay. Stay foolish. Do you have any videos talking about the use of montage? I don't, partly because, I do a little bit in, I think in Thinkin' Scenes. Because the point of a montage is you are collecting in writing. Remember, montage in editing, in photography, in the production end is a separate question which you are not essentially doing. When you are writing a montage, what you are trying to do is capture a time or a place or an action or an idea. And you are saying, this idea is going to be seen through several bits and pieces that I am putting on top of each other, next to each other. So the main thing you want to do is figure out what is the purpose of the montage. What is the montage trying to convey? If you were just going to say like, time passes, they went gambling, those are some of the early montages, they went out partying and we see a whole lot of cocktail lights and pouring champagne. If the montage is, this person is recovering from an auto accident and you see like a bunch of events from their recovery. The main thing is that a montage will have a purpose, and that singular purpose is the purpose of that scene. A montage is essentially a scene made up of little bits. Okay. How do you feel about making pitch Bibles before working on a story fully? I would say a pitch Bible and a pitch are separate. So the first thing I would say is don't pitch until you have the story. If you are talking about making a sort of, the basic information about a project, that tends to happen for me while I'm doing the story. Like I can't come up with the Bible without knowing the story. And I can't come up with the story without knowing the things that are in the Bible, because the Bible will be who the characters are, what the setting is. So you're going to need that. They're actually one thing. They're one thing in different forms. So what I would suggest is the way I do it is here in this video. Organize. The way I do it is I set up a couple of separate documents. I do one which is just any bits of text I can do, mainly an outline, and then an other document which I call my overview. But you could call it the Bible, you could call it whatever you like. But that's for all the things that are not in the outline, like a theme or notes about a setting or something. Those things you might put in the other document. But the only thing I can say is I can't imagine doing them separately. This happens a lot in when people think about world building. They think, I'm going to make a map of the streets and I'm going to figure out what costumes they wear. That's kind of game theory. It's like, okay, I'm going to get the elements of my game and then later I'll just invent a big stockpile of stuff. That's not how storytelling works. Storytelling, the things that are in the story are the things that matter. If you come up with a complete map of the entire location of a scene, but they only use one house in that map, why are you bothering with the rest of it? Unless it's just like creatively fun for you, or you think it somehow enhances it. But if it's not going to go into the outline, it actually isn't going to exist for the reader. So my answer is I would do them simultaneously. I would not do them before. Hello, call me Joe. Do you agree that a strong character, main character, is the one who is the most vulnerable but having strong goals? I would agree that that can be true. I would agree that having a strong goal matters. Not necessarily the most vulnerable. It depends on the story. It depends on the vision and the characters and mainly the story. Some characters you want to be vulnerable. It's difficult to have a character who is invulnerable because then you never worry about them. Although in theory, you could worry about an invulnerable character not accomplishing their goal because their goal may not be their survival. It may be something else. But I would say that video I mentioned before about character is going to cover a lot of that topic. But the main answer is a strong main character does have to have a strong goal. But remember, a strong goal is a strong goal for them. It could be incredibly important for them to bake a cake because they are going to present it to their father-in-law, and that's going to make the family happy. It doesn't have to be world shaking. It doesn't have to be strong life or death. It has to be strong to them. Do I offer private consultations? I currently do not. The year 2024, I am taking off from doing that, and we'll see after that. But I am currently working on a novel of my own and do not have time to do private consultations. And I apologize that in many of these videos, it says, hey, call me up, I'll do consultations. When I made them, that was true. Now I'm taking some time off. I follow the suggestion of that video. I have more than 500 ideas in that document. I don't know what's the point of keeping it now. Yeah, I apologize for the teacher who told you to do that. I don't entirely see the point. Are there books you wrote about writing? What could we learn that we could read to learn more about writing? I only read a few books 30, 40 years ago. Since then, hundreds and hundreds of books have come out. I do not know if they're any good. I would say check this video, Screenwriting Rule. Wow, I'm just begging you people, check my videos. This describes what I think about reading books to learn writing, which is it's not a bad thing. You should do whatever you can, but you have to do writing more than you have to do reading. That's my main thought. Cool. Yay. Okay. I'm going to say call a halt on questions. We've got too many questions, which I appreciate, but I just don't have time. Do you watch any Indonesian movies? I do not. Certainly not. Like I may have seen some Indonesian movies. I'm not sure. It wasn't The Raid. Indonesian. Anyway, the answer is I unfortunately do not know anything about Indonesian film particularly. So I have no opinions. I apologize. What's the average number of rewrites on a script? I don't know. It depends on what you define as rewrite. Like for me, once you have finished a script and start showing it to people and in theory are professionally engaged with them when they're telling you to do rewrites, not talking about that. The number of rewrites, the number of drafts or passes that I will go through before I think it's ready for somebody to read it other than me, 10 minimum. It's hard because I don't go like beginning to end. I've talked about this in my rewriting video. Boy, I really can say, please watch my videos. I'll often just rewrite a part. I'll read it and I'll be like, okay, most of this is good. This scene needs a little work. Is that a rewrite? I don't think so. So the answer is I'm sort of constantly rereading and rewriting 10 or 20 times minimum. But that's not like rewrites. To me, a rewrite is you've put it away, you start something else, and you have to go back to it. Yes, ask me anything, but not now because it's getting late and everyone is asking me things. Thoughts on characters speaking their exposition. Once again, the what if I see the revealing of the yes, absolutely. I would say please watch this video. I go into this in detail. And also there is a video called exposition. So please check those out. Also, actually, flashbacks is another way that you get exposition. So I would say that. Please watch my videos. Just because I spent like 6 to 12 months on each of these videos, writing out, really thinking about like, how do you do exposition? What do I want? And I put it there in like these great, concise things. Okay. I'm glad that you quit because it will be much better for your lungs. I suspect that had to do with whether the coffee question. Can you combine horror, thriller, and comedy into a new genre? You certainly can. Remember, mixing genres is generally harder for companies to accept because they don't know how to market it. However, the horror comedy genre is its own genre. It exists. And the thriller comedy a little less. Also, the difference between horror and thriller is almost hard to define because any horror is probably going to essentially be a thriller with some additional supernatural or gory elements. So basically, horror and thriller are one thing. Mixing that with comedy is an established genre. You can do it. No, I do not teach currently at UCLA Extension or anywhere. I guess Waiting for Godot is the most well-known absurd play. Any absurd movies you could think of? Yeah, tons. Charlie Kaufman, obviously, specialist in that. Being John Malkovich, even adaptation are highly absurd. Beau is Afraid by Ari Aster is deeply absurd. After Hours by Martin Scorsese is truly absurd. There's lots of good absurd movies. Okay. Robert McKee had an entire master class about... Oh, interesting. I did not know that. Cool. Check it out. Not the Pirate Renegade Angel is some great surrealism. Not the Pirate... I'm not sure what that is, but sounds good. Okay. Let me just see. Ask anything for me. 2 historical movies, JFK versus Oppenheimer. One is a masterpiece, the other a master sleep. Your thoughts? First of all, I don't really like to spout opinions about specific works. I don't mind recommending things now and then, but I don't know that there's a value for me. I actually did a whole Ask Me Anything about this. I don't think it's valuable for me. Not that you shouldn't do it, but that for me to use my lessons here to pick and choose, and it's a matter of opinion. I personally loved both JFK and Oppenheimer. I felt that JFK is probably a lot of awfully great filmmaking technique towards a relatively poor set of insights, whereas Oppenheimer is relatively brilliant filmmaking technique towards brilliant insights. So for me, I liked them both, but I liked actually Oppenheimer more. But on the other hand, JFK has some dazzling filmmaking that I love, even though honestly most of what it says I don't buy. Did you have to work harder than your agent getting work? Yeah, everybody does. This is not, unless you are so famous that people are coming to you for work, your agent is not really getting you most of your work. You are mostly getting it through your own contacts, which you get when you start to work. You start to meet people and you start to produce things. Agents mostly they work fitfully. They will give you some time and then they will go off and give someone else some time. You are always responsible for your own career. You are always responsible to keep looking for opportunities and thinking about what kind of work you can generate without anyone else's opportunity. Do you think you can make your AMAs into an RSS feed or Spotify podcast? I don't know. I haven't had the time to get into that. I think probably what I will end up doing when I finish my novel and have a couple free years is go back and chop my AMAs into specific smaller questions. For me, the idea would be to make it a searchable resource. I don't like the idea of people having to sit through lengthy things to catch a bit of insight. That's why my videos, that's why these videos are so important. This is where all the goodies are, stripped down to the most productive things. And they're not that long. They're 10 minutes. Do you have concern about diversity of the characters when you're readying to write a story? I kind of do. I like to think, well, first of all, I just like to think of things that are unexpected or unusual, bring a breath of freshness and life to any story. So therefore, I'm going to be trying to say, can I bring some different views into this story? So it's not so much a political decision as a aliveness. On the other hand, if the story demands a specific focus on a specific group of people, I don't think there would be anything wrong about having only that type of person in the story. It depends on the story. Beau is Afraid is a hard thing to check out. I'm not recommending it in many ways. It's very long, and I think it's phenomenally surrealist, but there are some sections in it that probably could be cut down. All right, everybody, this has been fabulous. I have like 1, 2, 3, 4. I have about 25 references. I've referred to various videos. So the main thing I can say to any of you is, if you have a question, go to my main page, go to these 3 playlists and click on, look at the whole playlist and see what's in there. If you have nothing else to do, watch some of these 10-minute videos, because sometimes something like exposition is actually partly covered in flashbacks. So it's worth just check them out when you can. Yes, Beau is Afraid is one of the most hilarious and upsetting movies I've ever seen. How long should it take to write a first draft if you've already worked out the outline? It will depend. Are you writing full time? If you are working full time, you have no other job or no other thing, and you can, the standard time in my screenwriting career was around 8 to 12 weeks to get a draft for when you have an outline. On the other hand, it's taken me years. So it depends on what else you're doing and how familiar you are with the process. If you've written 10 scripts, you'll probably write the 11th faster than you did the first one. Kind of like having babies, from what I understand. Anyway, there isn't a set answer, but the professional answer would be, usually you are expected to hand in a first draft within 8 to 12 weeks of saying you've got the story down and you're ready to go. And with that, I believe we are going to say so long. It's been delightful. Please do look at my videos. I will try to put some links in the description after this. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope that you go write something.